full swing. I do have to do this one last thing before we go. I have to talk about an article that is 2 years old, but it's so relevant to what Jesse Spade just got through saying. And it's a 2-year-old article, actually 3 years now, over in Huffington Post, and I'm pulling it up on the screen. I'll share it in the chat room. But it talks about everyone in America is even more broke than you think. And I really have to share the screen on this one, and I'll describe it the best I can for those of you listening to on the radio. It goes down the line of the real economic condition. So actually, let me pivot hard from where the last caller, not caller, but Jesse Spade just discussed. He has acquired success in America, and he wants to see that success extended to everyone else, or at least that everyone else has an opportunity for that success. Now, that's a political promise, and that's something that you have to hold someone who makes that promise to you have to hold them accountable for. So whether he does it or not, that's up to you as a constituent to hold his feet to the fire. But the bigger, broader picture is true in America, that there is a lot of success in America, but that success is not being passed to those opportunities for success are not trickling down. And this is an article from 2013 asking, where do you stack up? And I just want you to kind of take a real hard look at the reality of where people are in America. If you make more than $10,000 a year, you earn more than 24.2% of Americans, or 37 million people. So there's 37 million people as of 2013, according to the Social Security Administration, that make less than $10,000 a year. And this is out of 153 million wage earners. So these are people who are working, right? These are not people who are living on benefits. These are people who are working. If you make more than 10,000 a year, you make more than 37 million Americans. If you make more than 15,000 a year, then you make more than 32% of all Americans, which is roughly the annual salary for a minimum wage job working 40 hours a week. Minimum wage in America gets you $15,000 a year. If you make more than $30,000 a year, you make more than half of Americans. If you make more than 50,000, then you're in the top 73 percentile. You're making more than 73.4% of Americans. If you make more than $100,000 a year, which in a city like Boston is just enough for you to strangle and barely survive, then you're making more than 92% of all Americans. Let me skip to the punch. You're in the top 1% if you make over $250,000 a year, and the 894 people who make more than 20 million a year, they make more than 99.99989% of all Americans. The stark reality of it is here and here. 10,000 and 15,000. That there's 24% of Americans who are working make less than 10,000 a year. These are people who are actually working. When you see people on television telling you that that all we need to worry about is identity and never economics, you have to realize they don't understand what it's like to make less than probably $100,000 or $250,000 a year. And so economics is completely irrelevant to them, because there is great success in America. That success is just not attainable by everyone. And so you have people, who make these salaries that are so disconnected from the rest of America, lecturing us about what should be important to us. And I sit back and I watch all of these people, Hillary Clinton is the quintessential example of this, because in 8 years, how long has it been since they've been almost 16 years since they left the White House? They've made over $100 million. Yet she wants you to not talk about income inequality. She wants you to talk about identity politics. Only worry about feminism, only worry about racism, only worry about all these different identities, but don't unpack those identities and see underneath being a woman is the struggle of so many millions of American women who are in poverty. Underneath just my identity as a black man, there are millions of black people in America who are living in poverty, but they want to stop the conversation at your identity. And they play on that because it's embedded in our system. We're all emotional. We have trigger reactions to someone saying uterus, but we don't have trigger reactions to more than 37% of Americans. I don't want to quote the numbers wrong. Where is it? Hell, let me say it right. $10,000 or less. 24.2 of Americans make less than $10,000 a year. That doesn't even register. But you should be mad about a damn uterus. Or you should be mad because Bernie Sanders didn't have the right number of black faces in an Iowa ad. But feel absolutely nothing about the fact that there are millions, 37 million people in America who make less than $10,000 a year. And they get on television and tell you that you shouldn't worry about that because that's not important to black people. That's not going to solve racism. That's not going to solve sexism. So you should worry about, someone speaking politically correct, but don't worry about the fact that you have 37 million Americans making less than $10,000 a year. Or the reality of someone like you or like me who may be stuck somewhere between making $50,000 and $100,000 a year, and still you live in situations where that money is gone before the end of the month. Not because you're out partying, but because, childcare costs a mortgage in America. I pay more in childcare than I do on our housing. Or because, housing is exorbitant. Which brings me back to this son of a bitch out of San Francisco. Listen to this guy. What's his name? Justin Keller. He says that the residents of this amazing city no longer feel safe. He's complaining about homeless people. I know people are frustrated about gentrification happening, but the reality is we live in a free market society. So in other words, I know you're upset because your rents are so high that the place that you lived in for years is now no longer accessible to you, but that's just the free market. Besides, this is him saying, these are his words, verbatim. The wealthy working people have earned their right to live in the city. They went out, got an education, worked hard, and earned it. I shouldn't have to worry about being accosted. I shouldn't have to see the pain, struggle, and despair of homeless people. As though people were making $10,000 a year or less, or as though somebody making $15,000 a year working 40 hours a week is not working hard. As though poverty has no effect on the educational attainment of a child. As though the entire trajectory of a child's life is not set by the income strata that they are born in which they are born. And so now a person who was either born middle class or born in upper middle class or born wealthy is looking down on someone who was probably born in poverty. And if you're born in poverty in America, you're going to die in poverty in America. Odds are. But I shouldn't have to see the pain, struggle, and despair of homeless people to and from my way to work every day. You know what, Keller? Kiss my middle class black ass. Because if The only pain and struggle you have to worry about is seeing the pain and struggle in a homeless person's life. There's no insult enough to go after that. That sentence in itself is the insult. The only thing you have to worry about, the only thing you have to struggle with is having to bear witness to someone else's struggle. And the sadder reality of it is that a guy like this quite possibly thinks he's progressive because he supports gay marriage, or perhaps he supports a woman's right to choose, or perhaps he might even support Black Lives Matter. But he should not have to be accosted witnessing the suffering and pain of people who are homeless. You don't get a pass. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. You don't get a pass, an economic pass, just because you are pro-choice and you are pro Black Lives Matter, and because you are whatever, pro marriage equality. You don't get a pass. Because if you are not addressing the economic plight of the average American, then you're not progressive. And so we've seen this filter and creep into the Democratic Party. And now you have someone like Hillary Clinton, who in the last 16 years has made over $100 million doing speeches to Wall Street. I don't care that she made him $100 million. What I care about is the influence that $100 million coming from Wall Street is going to have on her if she becomes president. But more importantly, what I care about is someone in that economic strata telling me that we should not worry about income inequality. When income inequality is glaring, it's in our face, and the opportunities that income inequality ravages from us, rips away from us, those opportunities are lost forever. When a person is born in poverty, they have a slim to none chance to get out of that poverty. No matter how they could go to school, it's unless you've taught in an impoverished community, you don't really understand what poverty does to education. So all of these people running around saying all you have to do is get an education. No, an education can't be attained when you go home and your lights are off. When you go home and you don't have a secure food, and you don't have a secure housing. When you go home and you don't have all of the resources at your disposal, you have to go to the public library. You have to catch a ride to the public library. You have to get money to get on a train to get to the public library just to get access to the internet to do your assignment. Unless you have seen what poverty can do to education, then you really wouldn't understand what poverty does generationally. And you really wouldn't understand that someone born in poverty is going to probably die in poverty. And so it's completely irrelevant to you because your entire breadth of experiences has been from the pristine perch of the middle class and the upper middle class and then the top 1%. In other words, you have not a damn clue. And unfortunately, that cluelessness has filtered into the Democratic Party, where you have Black faces, you have white faces, you have women faces, you have gay LGBT faces, who are all successfully fighting the identity politics fights which need to be fought, but haven't a damn clue about what it is to be poor in America. Caller, you're live on the air. Thanks for your patience. You got